Hi, Rich Carrubba for bowlingball.com. Let's talk about how to develop a smooth bowling release. And I think it's important to begin with understanding that a smooth release begins with a proper fitting bowling ball and with the gripping pressure. Let's talk about the grip pressure, because I think that's vital. First of all, when you hold the ball and you get your fingers inserted in the ball, get in the habit of putting them in uniformly. The same kind of insert the fingers and thumb relationship the same way each and every time you grip the bowling ball. So it becomes very familiar with you. One of the things you got to watch for is the holes are drilled straight into the ball, so make sure when your thumb goes in straight, it doesn't knuckle over, or you don't begin to grab or squeeze the ball too firmly, like grabbing a tennis ball and squeezing it as hard as you can. You don't want that. Just a nice mild gripping pressure, enough to hold the bowling ball. When the fingers slide into the ball, whether it's a fingertip or even further down into the ball, make sure that they stay to the contour of the gripping holes, and most of the pressure is applied with the pads of your fingers and the pad of your thumb. And we recommend a little more grip pressure with the pads of the fingers than the thumb. And the reason for that is we want the thumb to exit the ball more quickly than the fingers. The thumb comes out first, weight of the ball falls onto the fingers, fingers can rotate the bowling ball, put the desired releasing action on it, and you get a more consistent release that way. We also recommend practicing with a wrist support device to keep the wrist straight so the thumb exits more quickly if you have a problem with a collapsing wrist and the fingers exiting the ball before the thumb. The more revs, the quicker the thumb gets out of the ball, and the faster the hand action or finger releasing action. Okay? Just a general rule of thumb. More pressure again on the finger pads than on the thumb pad. Now, another factor in developing a smooth release is understand how to hold the ball. Well, we want to see you put your hand flatly underneath the ball, and not completely on the side of the ball as if you were to shake hands with someone, but maybe somewhere in between. If you set up in between, we don't want to see a lot of gap here either. Make sure you get your fingers and thumb all the way in. I see a lot of bowlers only put their thumb partially the way in, too much space up here. Then you're trying to grab with the fingers. It makes the release wobble, or your hand wobble while you're swinging the bowling ball. It's not going to give you and encourage a good consistent release. So your hand all the way in the ball, good gripping pressure, nice and smooth, set up not completely underneath or not completely on the side, halfway in between. If you want to keep your hand in that direction, you'll tilt the axis of the ball as you release it 15 or 20 degrees. It'll give you a fairly straight direction down the lane and a modest hook into the pocket. Okay? Now, the more you want to hook a bowling ball, the more you get underneath it. And the more your fingers rotate, visualizing a clock dial, and I'm referencing a right-hander here, opposite for the left-hander, of course. So from maybe 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, where your fingers are, right at the release point, at the bottom of the arm swing, as you enter the release area, the fingers should go about 3 hours rotating from, say, 6 o'clock to 3 o'clock, 7 o'clock to 4 o'clock, something like that. If you do that quickly at the moment, you'll tilt that rotating axis and it'll create more revs. Remember, as a bowling ball has a greater tilt in the rotating axis as it travels down the lane, it'll have a faster rev rate. If a bowling ball goes completely end over end, like a full roller delivery, then regardless of how quickly your release is, it takes longer to make a complete rotation cycle, and therefore there's less revs. Anyway, all that, keep that in mind. The handshake position on the side of the ball will also give you a fairly direct line down the lane and a little tuck or turn into the pocket, but it's dangerous because if you rotate too much, your hand and elbow come over the top of the bowling ball and produce unpredictable results. We want you to be accurate. We want you to have a consistent release. We like to see your hand behind the ball entering the releasing zone and a little smooth release. You don't need a real fast, snappy action, but if you do want more revs, faster thumb and more rotation at the moment of release. Those are your choices. Now, in either case, just try to avoid rotating the whole elbow and the whole arm. Keep the elbow behind the bowling ball at the release point. If you rotate your elbow, you get over the top of the bowling ball and produce undesired results. Wear the wrist support device in practice to get that feeling of the thumb coming out a little more quickly in relation to the fingers. You don't have to wear it while you practice, but it's a good practice technique for those who don't wear them normally. Now, we hope some of these tips help you, and while you're here today visiting, take some time to look at all the wonderful products we have available, and if you find one that you wish to purchase, simply follow the easy-to-order online instructions. And remember, our store is always open, and we thank you for visiting bowlingball.com.